Hello, dear ones, Father Peter John, coming to you from All Saints Orthodox Church in Bloomington, Indiana. Christ is in our midst. I want to talk today briefly about St. Edward, the martyred king of England. He was a young king who succeeded his father to the throne. He was a devout Christian, a lover of the church. He was a defender of the church, a defender of the monasteries against the nobles that were trying to take the land that the monasteries were on. He made some enemies because of his love for and defense of the church and the monasteries. And there was another thing, and that was he had a stepmother who she was very, very disappointed that he became king. She wanted her little boy to be the king of England, and this is Edward's stepbrother. And so what happened is one day, Edward is out hunting. He breaks off from the hunting entourage, to go visit his little brother. He goes to the castle where the brother and the stepmother live. And as he's riding his horse up, his mother comes out of the castle and offers him mead to drink. And he says, "Thank you, mother," and takes it. As he begins to take a sip, then one of her henchmen runs out behind him and kills him from behind. Well, there are a number of things that happened associated with this. First, his relics were found to be miracle working. The mother hid his body in a shed on the castle property, and there also happened to be a blind woman who lived there because she didn't have any money, and so she was allowed to live there, and the castle, they would give her some food and things. Well, anyway, in the middle of the night, there's this bright flash of light, and she cries out, "Lord, have mercy," and she receives her sight. And as she receives her sight, she looks and she sees her slain king lying here in this shed. And so the stepmother finds out about the healing, and she runs down and she has the body taken and dumped in a marsh. And so on the 1-year anniversary of St. Edward's martyrdom, there's a pillar of fire coming from the marsh. People come to find out what it is. Somehow they find his body there, and they take it in procession. And there's this and that transferring of the relics. They find his relics on the 2-year anniversary of his martyrdom. They find his relics to be incorrupt. People are being healed as there's a procession with his relics from one location to another. There are a couple of people who are paralyzed, and the entourage slows down and brings the coffin down to where the paralyzed men are, and both of them receive the ability to walk again. So there are all of these relics. It's amazing. In his life, St. Edward wasn't working relics, but in his death, his body it's a miracle-working relic. So anyway, fast forward through about 1,000 years of history. This all took place in the 10th century. And here we are at 1981. St. Edward's relics have been lost and then have been rediscovered. Well, the man who rediscovered them in the 30s, eventually in 1981, I guess he had possession of them. I suppose, I'm not exactly sure how all that works. But in 1981, he gifted them to the Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia. They started, they built the St. Edward the Martyr Orthodox Church, and they started the Brotherhood of St. Edward. I didn't know this existed until I did some reading on this. It's fascinating. It still exists to this day. The Brotherhood of St. Edward, and the monastery is located there with the relics, and they care for the relics of St. Edward, and this is a place of pilgrimage. It's amazing. So St. Edward is this great martyr, a Western martyr in the church, whose relics are cared for by the Russian Orthodox Church in England now, and it's just an amazing story. So our prayer is that St. Edward, the martyred king of England, would pray unto God for us, that he would pray for our healing, physical and spiritual healing and psychological healing, and that he would pray for peace in our world that is so wrought with violence and terror right now. We are in need of the prayers of St. Edward, the righteous ruler, for healing. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, Christ is in our midst. He is and ever shall be.